What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix. I'm Ryan Coop here, kicking things off for round one of the playoffs. The 2021 CFL Division Semi-Finals are this weekend. Yes, the regular season of CFL Fantasy has come and gone. What a year it's been. A fantastic season. I had a lot of fun throughout. I hope you did as well. I hope you end up at the top of your pools or even the overall leaderboard. If so, that's even better. And now it all resets again for the playoffs. A bit of a tweak to the format for the playoffs. The rosters are smaller. You only have one running back, one receiver, a flex, and then your usual quarterback and defense. So one less running back, one less receiver, and $10,000 less to spend. Now, if you've been watching these videos throughout the regular season, you know my model for deciding which players are going to be worth their value is, can they put up 2.5 points per $1,000? Because if everybody does that at a $40,000 cap, you're hitting a 100-point week. Well, you only have a $30,000 cap here, but I'm going to stick with the same models because I think they still translate to typically better options available. If it's a guy that can hit that model. A smaller roster size, maybe you don't hit 100 points. It's going to be a lot harder to do so with less players available, but that should still help you put it in the upper echelon of scores on the week. So we're not going to change anything with the model. Why? Fix what ain't broken, or whatever the saying is. So I'll go through today here. I'll go through the quarterbacks. In this video, of course, I'll go through running back, wide receiver, and defenses this week as well to get you set for the semifinals. Should be shorter videos than usual because, well, there's there's two less games to talk about than a typical week. So maybe we can go a little more in-depth on the options as well. Also, quick note, both games are on Sunday this week. I will unfortunately not have a depth chart video out on the weekend for these games because the depth charts won't come out until Saturday. I have a jam-packed weekend. I will not be able to get to my recording desk to record that. I will still tweet out the depth charts as they come out, so check on Twitter at CooperTrooper42 for all of those to get that last-minute update this weekend for you. But no depth chart update video, just the positional previews out throughout the next day or two here. So let's dive right into the quarterbacks for week number, 17, the division semifinals. We've got Hamilton hosting Montreal, and we've got Saskatchewan hosting Calgary. Here are your options among the starting quarterbacks for these teams. Jeremiah Masoli has been the starting QB down the stretch for Hamilton. I know a lot of fans are clamoring for Dane Evans, but I just can't see them switching away from Masoli as the starter for this week. Cody Fajardo, of course, in Saskatchewan. Trevor Harris seems like he will be the starter for the Alouettes. Vernon Adams Jr. is still out with injury. Matt Schultz hasn't practiced or played really yet. I think they got to roll with Harris, who has been putting up touchdowns since joining the Alouettes. So I foresee him being the starter there. And then Bo Levi Mitchell is most likely, I'd be shocked if he isn't, going to get the start for the Calgary Stampeders. Count me in the camp of people potentially thinking that, maybe Jake Mayer should get the start. I think he's shown more flashes this season than Bo has a lot of times, but let's be real. They're sticking with Bo Levi Mitchell at quarterback, and whether that helps or hurts them will remain to be seen. Let's go through the four different options here among the starters, though. Most expensive on the slate is Jeremiah Masoli of the Ticats, $10,311. First of all of these options are yellow lights to me this week because I don't think there's any one that far and away runs away as the best pick at quarterback this week. I think all of these are guys that I think could potentially have the ability to hit their 2.5 point per $1,000 range, but I could also see situations given their matchups. It's playoffs. There's no easy matchups available in the playoffs, so I could see situations where, they have very disappointing days for you. Starting with Masoli, you need 25.8 points to get the full value out of him. He averages 16.7 on the season, which is just behind Cody Fajardo. for among tops in the league. He does face the Alouettes, who give up on average 16.4 to quarterbacks. What has Mazzoli done down the stretch? Well, he had 3 straight games of over 24 points where he was looking like he really had things, going strong. He put up 24.7 against Toronto, 24.1 against Ottawa, 28.9 against Edmonton. Then it kind of trailed back downwards a little bit in the final 3 weeks, of 12 to 16 points in each of those games. So it's been kind of hit and miss. He had a stretch of really good games there for a few in a row, but he's had a couple where it has been a letdown at the salary he comes at currently in CFL Fantasy. If you're putting him in there, you're committing to over a third of your salary, relying on him to put up a big game this week. I'm cautious there because the Alouettes do have one of the better defenses in the league, and that's a lot of money to spend on Mazzoli with potential, concern there of the matchup. I think Hamilton is typically a more pass-heavy team generally than, say, Montreal is, so to say, but I do think they could be shut down a little bit here. Hamilton's had a hard time this year in games that are very important in the standings. Look no further than their game against Toronto back a couple weeks ago to try to claim first place, that they came out flat in that one. 2 games against Montreal this year. Mazzoli has put up 10.6 points back in week number 9 and was the backup in week 4, so did not get a chance to play in that one. So cautious on Mazzoli. Moving on to Cody Fajardo of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, $9,719, his lowest price of the year. I think they did scale down the quarterback prices a good amount, given that they did drop the overall salary. So Fajardo, $9,719, unique 24.3. He's averaged 16.9 on the season. What has he done in his last couple of games? In his last 4 weeks, he's put up 16.7, 10.9, 16, and 22. So not bad numbers. Fajardo has a decent floor more often than not. Every game except when he played Winnipeg this year, he's put up over 10 points. But you need him to hit over 24 in order to get full value. And I think that's going to be a tough one. I think that's going to be a tough total to hit. Looking at his matchups with Calgary this year, they played Calgary 3 times in 4 games, or three times in 4 weeks, 3 back-to-back games. 11.1, 14.4, and 16.7 were his totals in that range. Calgary was a team to pick on earlier this season when it came to quarterbacks, but they've honed that in tremendously in the down the stretch here this season. They did give up 27.4 in their game against BC in week 15, but other than that, you got to go back all the way to week 5 against Edmonton was the last time they had given up more than 20 points to a quarterback. So I do not think Fajardo hits that total. I do think if the Riders are going to win this game, he'll need to likely hit something like that, because given that typically they don't lean on the run game very much, but I am not sold on that. Trevor Harris of the Alouettes, $8,316. You're looking for 20.8. He's averaged 14.6 on the season. Ever since coming over to Montreal, what has Trevor Harris done? In his first game there, when he came in as a backup, he put up 12 points. Then he put up 11.6 against Winnipeg, 17.8 against the Bombers, mostly backups, and then 19.1 against Ottawa in the last week of the season. So he's been playing, not too bad since coming over to the Alouettes. Hasn't necessarily been putting up the massive yardage, but he's been putting the touchdowns on the board. They don't really go for the rushing touchdowns too often in Montreal, so there are some perks to taking Harris here, especially as one of the cheaper quarterback options available this week. I think there is potential there. They do have, of course, a tough matchup here with the defense. The Ticats have one of the better defenses in the league, but they have had the times where they've given up decent points to quarterbacks, unlike Calgary. Hamilton in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of their last 7 games has given up over 20 points to players at the quarterback position. So if, Trevor Harris is honestly, of these 4 options, probably my favorite in this game. They're going to go pass heavy. I'm sure they'll try to lean on William Stanback a little bit here, a good amount here and there as well. But it's a team full of, big threats at the receiver position that can break a game open. And I could see Trevor Harris having himself a good day here. Moving on to Bo Levi Mitchell of the Stampeders, $7,520, the cheapest starting quarterback available. You need 18.8 points out of him. He's facing the Riders who, on average, give up 18.8 to quarterbacks. So, an average day by the Riders defense should be worth the value for Bo Levi Mitchell. But Mitchell has by far the lowest average out of any starting quarterback here this season that's playing this week. He's averages 10.9 points per game, which is certainly not going to cut it even at that value. He did hit 22.6 against BC a few games ago, but that is the first time I believe he has hit over 20 points on the season. So I'm not sold on Bo Levi Mitchell. We'll see if he comes to play in a playoff game. We'll see what the impact of having Reggie Bagleton is there for him. But the Riders have been pretty stingy on defense. Not giving up a ton of points, not giving up a ton of touchdowns, even if they give up the yardage in the last down the stretch drive of this season. So how would I rank the 4 options at quarterback this week? I don't think I would trust going to any of the backups, to be honest. I think this is a week you got to go with, of course, one of the starters here. I think Trevor Harris would probably be my number 1 option here. Jeremiah Mazzoli probably number 2. Then I think I'd go Bo Levi Mitchell for the cheaper price. No, I'd probably go Cody Fajardo, then Bo Levi Mitchell in that order, just based on totals this year. So I don't love any of the options. I think quarterback could be a position where maybe you try to fill out the rest of your lineup and then you see what's left this week. That might be the way to go. But if you are looking to start off setting your lineup with the quarterback, I say put your faith in Trevor Harris this week. He's got, he's the guy that in the playoffs all of a sudden stuns everyone. We've seen playoff games where he threw, 500 yards, 6 touchdowns, things like that. And that could be a really good day at an $8,300 price. So that's your quarterback preview for the Division Semi-Finals. Stay tuned. I will have within the next day or two your running back, receiver, and defensive previews as well. And a reminder, no depth chart video update this week. Do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't. If you have any fantasy questions, put them in the comments section or tweet them at me at CooperTrooper42. You can also find the depth charts there. A link to that's in the video description. And if you want to get in for the playoffs into the Canadian Football Fantasy Fix group on the official CFL Fantasy site, there's a link in the description there as well. As always, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.